Hello, everyone. Today we have with us two living legends from the world of cinema, but it would be wrong to say from the world of the cinema because their talent cannot be contained within the realms of cinema alone. Without much ado, I would like to introduce to you all Aparna Sen and Anjan Dutt, who for the first time are going to star together in Parambrata Chattopadhyay's upcoming film Ei Raat Tomar Amaar as a couple. So here we are for a chat with them. Hello, Rinadi.
Hello.
Hello, Anjanda. So tell us, Rinadi, you worked with Anjanda in two films before where you directed Jugantor and Mr. and
Juganto.
Mrs. Juganto and Mr. and Mrs. Ayyar.
And also, Anjum was there in
Sarita.
Sari.
Sari Raat. Right, right. So, but this is for the first time that you would be, sharing screen space as a couple in this film, where the director had been introduced in the world of cinema by you. I think Porum first debuted in with Half Chocolate, if I'm not wrong. So tell us, how does it feel? Reena, we would like to start with you. How does it feel to?
Well, my primary reason for agreeing to this film was because Anjun and I would be acting in it together. Because I've always wanted to act with Anjun. Um, Having directed him and knowing the kind of actor he is, it's the kind of acting that I find credible. I mean, there can be all kinds of acting, but this is the kind of acting that I personally find credible. And I would like to do that kind of acting myself. It's not always possible with somebody who's not versed in that kind of acting where there's an immediacy, where you feel that those lines are being said for the first time. You can almost see the thoughts passing through the person's head, the pauses in which the thought
Right.
takes place, um, silences. There is a spontaneity about the whole thing, even though it is prepared. We have rehearsed or done acting workshops or thought about it, discussed the script at length, ironed out the problems. All of that has been done. Despite that, when you are actually acting, at that time a certain spontaneity is needed, where it seems like you're saying
Organic,
those lines
right.
for the first time. Organically they're coming out of you. So that is the kind of acting that I find I am comfortable with, and I find that I can do that with Anjum. With very few people, I think it's possible for me to do it with very few people. And in any case, I'm not really into acting anymore. This particular film was going to be finished in 10 days. It was going to be a chamber piece. Anjan and I would be the only ones there, and we would have to carry the film on our shoulders. So, all that was really, I think, basically the reason why I agreed, because I do not actually agree to acting in films anymore.
Why is that decision? Why are you taking yourself away from the limelight when it comes to being in front of the camera?
I don't enjoy it. I mean, I didn't enjoy my. I'm not denigrating my mainstream films which brought me to where I am today, but basically I don't enjoy doing films which I don't find meaningful, and where I don't feel that the dialogue or the action or the mise en scene, whatever, uh, is something that I can believe in. Otherwise I'm very uncomfortable. I don't enjoy doing it. I actually acted in my own film, Paramita Ragdin, as you know.
Right.
But of course, it would have been a deal breaker if I hadn't done it, because the producer insisted. So I had to get the money, therefore I had to agree to act. The same with Paramita Ragdin, with Iti Mrinalini. But anyway, I didn't enjoy acting in Iti Mrinalini at all. But this film, Porum's film, I did enjoy.
Anjanda, what's your take? What drew you to the film apart from Reenadi, of course, or is it only Reenadi that you're working?
Many things. Of course, it is working with Aparna Sen, because I am I strongly believe that she's one of the very few true actors director in the country. I mean, there are a lot of good directors existing today, but people who there is a lack of people who understand the craft of acting and can make can actually excite or enthuse or push the actor in the correct. Very few. Aparna Sen is one of them, and I acted with her when I was matured enough, and I understood that by making mistakes, whatever, not making mistakes, because I believe also, as she said, I believe that acting is a very serious and interesting profession. And if the script and the director and if the entire thing is not convincing to me, then there is no point in wasting my energy on that. On Because the profession is not about just saying the dialogues or
Mhm.
whatever, continuously emoting. It is about being the person, and very few people understand that. Very few people understand the craft of acting. What does the actor actually do, which the camera doesn't do, which the script doesn't do, which the director doesn't do, which the editing can't do? What does the actor do? So only an actor's director, good director, understands that. And Aparna Sen is obviously, I personally think that is irrespective of whatever she feels about her earlier films. I personally, when I look back and see, I see a very witty, interesting actress. In some of the films that she's acted, which perhaps are very uh, so-called commercial, but that wit I find that slight wit is there,
I think she would agree to it.
and which is and that the ability to be non-melodramatic, which I
Right.
find if I look back and see, because at that point of time, in mainstream Bengali cinema, women were always crying, which Aparna Sen didn't do that very much. And later on, when she directed, even if I say Paloma, the character she played was fascinating. I thought she was very good in that role which she played, and so obviously it is one of the reasons to be able to act with someone with huge experience and in such a big span of time. So that was there, and also I found that I believed in the script, I believed in the director, and I believed in the whole project, and I decided to do it, and I enjoyed it because despite having very good directors in my life, I have been forced also to work in projects which I was driven to overact by the director. That be a little more dramatic, be a little more dramatic, be a little more loud. The people will not understand. You have to a little more tears. So I had to do that, and I had to do it. I couldn't say no and walk off. But Borrow's film is again one of those films which I enjoyed. That I was being a character. I was being normal, and I was doing something which only a good actor can do.
Right. Right.
No, Anjan just said something which brought an
To your
anecdote to
mind.
mind.
Yeah.
So this was very early on when I was about in my early 20s when one of my very early films. I don't know where I got the courage from because the director was so much older and I was acting with Uttam Babu as my co-star. And there was Lolita Chatterjee who was supposed to have said something very rude to me. This was actually Joy Jayanti,
Okay.
where I was ironing clothes. And because she had said something very rude to me, the director said, "You look at her, stunned that she's so rude, and then, I'll take a big close up, and there'll be tears in your eyes." And I wanted to just, I wanted, I said, "Please, please, can we not do it like that? How do you want to do it?" I said, "I'm ironing clothes, remember? So I'm stunned, and the clothes burn because I'm holding the iron over it." Uh, and then I suddenly noticed that, oh, it's burning. So the director was delighted. He said, "That's a very good idea. Yes, do that." So I did that. And then he came up to me very happy, and there were no tears in my eyes. It was wonderful. I did a huge close up. I said, "But what about the clothes are burnt?"
Ah,
I said, "Please take an insert." This is how I learned direction. Actually, I think.
while directing the directors on.
No, I wasn't. Far be it from me to direct the directors, but I mean, it was just common sense.
Right.
Why are you taking a big close up of mine when I'm saying that the clothes are burning?
Because there where the emotions lie, because you're stunned. That's why
I'm
the
so
clothes.
stunned. The clothes are burning. There,
Right.
suddenly notice you have to at least get a mid shot where the clothes are burning.
Yeah.
At least one shot like that. Otherwise, how will the audience connect?
Right.
So it's just a simple matter of common sense. But this is something that you learn along the way. And as Anjan said, they're constantly asking you to have these huge 100 lenses close up
Right.
and tears in your eyes. So how long can you keep
You were
doing
quite
that?
fed up of that,
I
you
was
know.
absolutely exhausted doing that.
And Rinadi, tell us, both you and Anjanda have been in this industry for, I mean, if I could say, for decades and decades and decades. But and you've seen the legends like Mrinal Sen, Satyajit Ray, and then in the middle, the dark age of cinema. And now they are saying that it's a resurrected age of cinema. But we are seeing an age where the time for making a cinema is so less that it's almost impossible to make something qualitative that lasts decades after it is made.
You can do it, but you can only do it if you're in one location with only a few
Right,
actors.
right.
You have to remember that Ingmar Bergman made the same kind of films. It was only chamber pieces that he made. And he had these brilliant repertoire of actors. But of course, you have to have actors like that who will,
And a director of that caliber,
and a director of that caliber, and to be able to hold and
the interest of the audience.
and
Yeah.
and a cameraman like Sven Nykvist who
Right.
will hold the camera on the actor, and the actor will go on for, I think, the length of 1 minute, maybe just a
Absolutely.
huge close up,
Mhm.
like Max von Sydow. So that we don't have, forget it. But the market is so small
Mhm.
that I feel that it's our failure that we haven't been able to reach Bengali audiences outside of Bengal.
Mhm.
Because Bengali is the, I think, sixth or seventh most spoken language in the world.
Absolutely.
So we have not yet,
With a huge diaspora of Bengalis.
huge diaspora of Bengalis, and you no longer actually have to physically carry the cans of film from one theatre to another.
Absolutely.
You can just stream it directly. So why have we not been able to
Tap that audience.
tap that audience? We needed to enlarge our audience. Otherwise, what happens? The directors, they're paid so little because of the budget. They, apart from having to make the film within 10 days or 15 days or whatever, they have paid so little that they have to keep making several films a year, at least one film a year or two films a year, because that is their main
Bread and
source of
butter.
earning. That's their bread and butter. So they don't have the time to write a script properly. The script is the backbone of the film. So you need, for instance, you've written a script. Maybe you wrote it in 15 days, 10 days, whatever. You need to take a couple of months and go away and not think
Yeah,
about other
yeah.
things, come back to it. Then suddenly you see, these loose ends are there. You tie them up. So we don't get that time.
So the privilege is no longer there.
The due time
Mhm.
for developing a good script is never given. Forget the film itself, the making of the film itself. So when you are constantly into that, how do you do it? Now, one of the things that bothers me is that UK faced the same problem. They could not compete with Hollywood, all right? So what did they do? They had to mainly go into television. They hardly made films. We can do that too. But why is the quality of our television not better?
Absolutely. And if you look at those serials and the regressive thought processes,
No, this is what I mean. I see even the series that are made. Why cannot they be better? What kind of? I mean, when I try to look at television, I invariably switch on to UK television
absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
they make such wonderful television series. We can't compete with Bombay. And even the South, we can't compete with. The South have their
But even
own
in the
equation.
south, we see that they make films which are also shot in a very on a very low budget and within a few days. But their concept, the ideation, is so different and so unique. One different, each different from the other, which is so much lacking here. Do you think there's some?
No, no, we have some good directors. I was talking about Shesh Pata the other day,
Hmm,
or Tunu Ghosh.
hmm.
He makes good
That was
films,
brilliant.
very good
Yeah.
films. We have other talented directors like Kaushik Ganguly, Anjun himself, though he's
Hmm.
sitting here.
Hmm.
Then, Srijit is a talented director. Then Protim D. Gupta makes
Right.
nice films. I'm sure I'm missing out a whole lot of others, but what I'm trying to say is, what are these directors to do? They don't get paid enough. They don't get paid enough to be able to sit back and wait and, create another film
That
organically
really
from
makes a
inside.
difference,
No, they're
right?
doing it because they have to get their bread and butter.
Run their hearth. Do you agree, Anjun? How much do you
Yeah,
agree?
I agree with him. Of course it is true. See, I personally feel that if Bengal being once a very important uh, focus as far as cinema is concerned, when when Aparna Sen's was starting her career,
Right.
it was a big industry. Now, today it, the scenario has changed, but there are the halls have reduced. It's 250 halls, and most of them are God knows where.
Mhm.
So the focus on urban, see, any in any industry, uh, dynamic industry like cinema has to focus on its urban people.
Absolutely.
But I mean, of course, there will be films made for the villages, but you cannot define a fashion industry by what is liked by in the villages. You can't define it. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, you can't do that.
Absolutely.
So that urban audience, there are hardly any halls, and there are and intelligent people have refused to watch cinema because it is it is churning out essentially very mediocre stuff. So they don't want to watch Bengali cinema. So as she said, okay, then let's go back to series. But the quality of series is also not very strong. The series television work is also very regressive. So I think if we have to continuously, if the Bengali cinema or television has to continuously cater to a very mediocre audience
Mhm.
and a very regressive audience, and not look for a bigger market, a bigger, then it will obviously fall, and that is why the state of
So it's a
it's
situation.
not
Yeah.
We
it's not that people are not talented. It's we need to address and reach out to the right people.
and we also need creative producers with
Yeah.
vision enough to create new audiences. They're constantly giving audiences safe stuff.
Right.
They never take any risks, and at the same time, you suddenly find that somebody makes something new and that works brilliantly,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
the audience is so tired actually.
And so starved of good
Yeah, but
content.
what do they do? Even the OTT platforms, no longer everybody is playing it safe. They're playing it so safe that audiences are getting bored.
Right. Right. What was the last OTT content that you watched? It can be a global thing that really impressed you.
Here,
Yeah, here or globally, if you the last one that you
globally, there
watched.
was a wonderful Indian film on movie the other day, which I just saw, made by some girl called Archana Fadke
Okay.
or something.
Okay.
It was called All About Love. It's actually about her family. I just started watching it, thinking, I'm curious. This Indian film by an Indian woman director that no one's heard of. Okay, let's watch it. I was fascinated by it.
Mhm.
Fascinated. And I'm sure that if such stuff is released, of course, it might take the audience a little time to get used to something like that.
Mhm.
For instance, I'll give you an example. This Poroma documentary that Shumon did on me, not because it's on me, I'm not talking about that at all. But there are so many people went away after 1 week. Well, what do you expect? It's a documentary about a has-been actress. Oh,
Now,
okay,
come
I
on,
understand.
come
No,
on.
no, okay. But I'm saying there's so many people who wanted to see it but who didn't know
Yeah.
and kept
Right.
they still keep calling me saying, well, it's gone. Now, what do? It's gone.
That's the problem that's facing
But
us,
this I find that in the multiplexes, most of the time when I go to watch any film, there are 40, 50 people at the most, no more. But the single theatres seem to be more full somehow. I don't know why that is.
Mm-hmm.
I was
That's
asking
quite right.
around. They were saying that bijoli to, lots of people come and watch. Half the time there's a house full board on. I was very surprised.
In such a
Maybe they
scenario.
can afford it. Maybe
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can't afford the multiplex
Absolutely,
tariffs.
absolutely. Maybe the tariff, including the popcorn charges, are
Yeah,
too
oh my
much for
God,
a
yeah.
family of four to go and watch a Bengali movie.
Yeah,
Maybe there where a standalone hall can or theater can make a difference.
perhaps. I'm
But
not sure. But somebody needs to look into this, explore it properly, and, figure out.
right. But in this scenario, Anjanda and Rinadi, how much hopeful does it make you guys when a release takes place where you people have put in your blood and sweat and so much time and effort? How does it feel? How hopeful do you get when your movies release nowadays about their performances, especially in the
See,
theaters?
I personally feel that if I'm convinced of the film is
Mhm.
good, the film is good, and maybe it will be liked by people who want to watch something different,
Mhm.
something new, slightly intelligent, something modern. They there is an audience out there, so I would
Mhm.
like to believe that. Now it all depends on whether it's correctly placed in the correct halls and whatever,
Mhm.
or it is shown on. I don't know when it's showed
And
for a few.
is this the reason, Rinadi, that you are really slowing down as a filmmaker? Also, you're taking your time, or you're getting
For
you're
whom
not.
do I make my
Yeah,
films? This question is there. For whom? See, my film, The Rapist, is not
yeah.
yet
We
in.
are waiting the
Not
release of the
no,
film.
but we don't know if it's going to be released at all or whether they've written it off as a bad investment. I don't know.
Does it make you frustrated at times as a
There's
maker?
heartbreak, but then when I decided that I was going to opt for a life in the arts, I knew that there would be heartbreak along the way. I was prepared for that. That there would be constant heartbreak and constant elate. I mean, there would be peaks of elation and peaks of absolute heartbreak.
It's like
It would be like that. That is a life in the arts. Is that I have opted for it, so I can't complain.
Rinadi tell us and Anjanda too that
No, Anjun is saying something.
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree with
please.
it. I think that if you're into creative work, you have to accept that things the good things perhaps sometimes go to waste. You have to accept that it's true all over the world, and you'll be valued later.
Yeah.
So even we keep talking about these three giants or whatever,
Mhm.
there's that. Much of their work was reviewed late. Ravi. They've been how many went and saw their films in the hall. So it's so if we start believing that we will work for the market and the market decided by algorithms,
Hmm.
then we
True.
then it's no longer a dynamic industry because it doesn't work. If algorithms finally fail, I think it doesn't, and AI will never be able to bring out a song like "Blowing in the Wind." They
Absolutely.
cannot write a song like
They
"Tomake
can't
Chaye." The
exactly.
AI will never be able to make a film like a 36 Chor Killing. It will never. It
But
Absolutely.
requires human beings.
when you feel really terrible, when I feel really terrible, then I think of Van Gogh, who never sold
I
a
was
picture
just
in his
about to say
lifetime.
that.
Not one painting was sold
Not
in his
one
lifetime.
painting.
Anjun has played Van Gogh himself
But
on theatre.
that never stopped him from creating.
So
I mean, he
yeah, I
went
mean,
mad.
He
He cut
went
off his
mad.
own
Yeah,
ear.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to that extreme, but we have to push the borders.
Yeah.
And the sad part is people don't want to push the borders, but
Hmm.
it is very important to push the borders. So even if I don't know whether Ei Raat Tomar Amaar is not going to work, but I believe that it's good, and my belief is important. And
Absolutely.
I don't think that this country only needs big budget
And
Pushpa or Masala or whatever Shah Rukh Khan. This
Absolutely.
country also has a space for a lot of other things.
and you you can't just always have a bunch of corporates deciding what the audience will like. Ki khabe. You know,
Ki khabe, exactly.
you can't have a bunch of corporates deciding that. You have, please, I mean, keeping the Me Too movement in mind and how important it is. Think of Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein. He was a terrible man, but look at the vision as a producer. You know,
And the risks.
and the risks taken. See, when somebody makes a film, say like The Rapist, so something prompted them to put their money where their mouth is. Something, they had that faith that I'm going to make this film because this film. I'm not talking about The Rapist. Just an example. Say Anjan's film, some film of his. Okay, so say The Japanese Wife of Mine.
Absolutely.
I made it because I thought I believed in it. Now you have to hang on to that faith till the end and see it through with that faith. If you lose faith in between, you say, nobody's going to see it.
Then if you're not convinced, how you are going to convince your audience? Yeah,
You
that's
can't.
true.
You can't.
So coming back to your latest film, tell us, you've portrayed so many characters of a wife, so many different shades of a wife. You have also portrayed so many shades of a husband in so many different films. How different is your couple in this film? If you could take us through the characters.
She's very different from what I am. She's very sweet, actually. And that's what attracts
And
me
from the
to
other
her.
characters that you played so far.
I mean, other characters were often saccharine sweet. I'm not talking about that. But this girl is very ill, but she certainly still has a sense of humor. She teases her husband all the time. She's, uh, you know, she's outspoken sometimes, but mostly she's gentle, she's sweet, much more so than I am. I'm much more blunt and outspoken. But I found her very sweet to start with, and also the relationship came across as real. You know, they're irritated with each other, they're teasing each other, they're fond of each other, they're caring for each other in this later stage in life when they're both aging. They have aches and pains and physical problems, and they have to support each other. They're getting irritated with each other. They're getting concerned about each other. All this is real.
All at the same time, that's happening.
Yeah, it's all a constant mishmash of that. So that is actually what happens, I believe. You care for each other, deeply care, and then you're irritated also with each other. You're frustrated, you're
So
bored.
do you believe this also happens in real life? Does it also happen to you and Kolanda, if I can say?
Oh,
Do you get irritated with each
Of course
other?
we do. Of course we do. Always having fights, but basically deep down inside, deep down inside,
The care is there.
The care is there, and you remember things, and it's like.
So how much from your real life did you take a cue to,
You don't have to do that, and it's very important to understand that in creativity, you do things instinctually. You draw whatever you draw, not consciously, but on a subterranean level,
organically?
on a sub, you can't answer for your subconscious,
Right.
so that draws, and you're not aware of what you're drawing on, and that is the magic of creativity. If you're constantly aware, okay, I'm drawing this from here, I'm drawing that from here, then the charm and the magic is gone.
Right. Anjan Dutt, if you could share a few lines.
I sincerely hope the audience finds the fun in the film. I mean, it's obviously a, a sad film, but I hope the audience finds it the fun and joy in it. And if they find that joy in it, they will like the film. I'm certain. Of course, in the end, a good film makes you feel emotionally stirred and you cry. But there is a lot of fun in that. There's a lot of fun uh, in the film. Fun meaning not laughter, but that little bit of humor which matters in such a dark situation we live in. That little bit of humor, despite death, despite illness, that moment, I think if the audience understands that, they're going to really like the film. I think so.
And how
And we've
much?
tried to do
Yeah.
that. We've tried to bring out that humor.
And how much
It-
that positivity and humor how difficult or how easy is it to attain in the
See, it
later
has to
stage of
be.
your life
See,
in
it has to.
reality, if you could tell
See, it
us.
has to be. Any creative person has to have a sense of wit, and I know that Aparna Sen has a
Mhm.
lot of wit, and that is what is keeping her going, irrespective of the fact that the rapist is never going to be released. Perhaps, sorry, Ravi. But
No, no,
the
it's true.
fact that she is witty is actually making her do it, and the fact that I have some kind of wit is making me survive. So that wit is very important to for any creative person to have
Mhm.
that sense of wit. If that person doesn't have wit or humor, and if they think that uh, a good actor has to be able to do good comedy,
Yeah.
irrespective of the
It's
fact
such
that whether
fun.
it's
Mm.
comedy doesn't mean that you have to it's like be a
It can,
clown,
yeah, it
but
needn't be slapstick, but
every
yeah.
because actors were called comedians at a certain point
Mhm.
of time. They were
Mhm.
called comedians. So any good actor has to have a certain sense of comedy. So if that goes away, and Bengali society has the Bengali essentially the essential Bengali society has a lot of humor in it. Cultural,
Right.
popular culture has inherited humor. So if we lose that and we are constantly cribbing away and crying, then it's bad. So I think this film again celebrates that wit and humor despite all the tragedy we are going through.
So, does this apply also in real life for you guys when you encounter any problem or difficulty or hardship in your own life with the kind of at this stage of life that you're going through? How much wit or with how much humor do you treat or do you face them?
See, a lot of the heartbreak or a lot of the tension, whatever,
Mhm.
anxiety, disappointment is related to work. Okay. Earlier, I used to get much, much more upset. Then I told myself, I believe my moon is very strong, everyone says, which makes me philosophical.
Okay.
So I tell myself that cinema is not, I mean, cinema consumes me, it's true.
Of course.
But cinema, I mean, there is life beyond cinema.
Absolutely.
I do tell myself that, I mean, everything has not stopped because, one film of mine didn't go to one festival or didn't win an award or
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, it's okay.
And there's always a tomorrow.
And also, why are we forgetting the fun and the reward that we were getting while in the process of making the film? That was a reward in itself, also.
Absolutely.
I mean, The Rapist was fun to make, difficult to make, inside a slum in the middle of COVID, wearing masks. It was really hard work, but it was so enjoyable doing that work. So when I think about the fact that, yeah, it didn't get a release,
In the foreseeable future, do we have any chance of it getting into one of the
I don't know.
OTTs?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But then I think, but it was fun making it. Maybe
Absolutely.
sometime after I'm dead, people will see it and like it.
Oh, but that's long, long, long time away.
Anyway.
And let us go to a little less serious stuff like Parambrata. He debuted in your film, and now he's directing you. And Rinadi, you've worked with him in Chotushkon, and I think only in Chotushkon, right? And now he is directing you. How fun it was to be directed by a young and a very talented filmmaker like him. How do you feel?
See, I
How
think
much has he grown?
uh, I think that he's a sensible person. He comes from a sensible background. He watches uh, good cinema, the kind of cinema probably which I like, and he likes. So he's not somebody I don't know from Adam, and I have no clue on. So whether he's young or old doesn't
The
matter.
comfort level was
Yeah,
there.
it doesn't matter whether he's young or older. I've worked with older directors than me who are very bad directors. So, but I have worked with one person, and who kept on telling me that your walk is not right, and blah blah, blah whatever. So, but so young is good. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
sometime I've also worked with younger directors who I forced me to act badly, and they wanted me to act badly. Badly, not for him. He thought it was good, but I thought it was awesome. Paul had that sensibility. He understood where we are coming from. He understands what a good actor's job is, and so it was. I enjoyed it. I had
Rinadi,
fun.
what about you?
Porom actually had directed me, before, while we were acting in Chotushkon. As I said to somebody before this, Srijit was away. He was far away. I mean, the camera was far away, or he was far away. There was no way of contacting him, and I didn't know what. But I just introduced something which I thought was interesting, and there was nobody I could ask. And then I asked Porum. I said, Porum, do you think I should do this? He said, yeah, it's very good, but akpashakam, just reduce a
Okay.
little bit. I said, okay, thanks. And I did it, and I just reduced it a little bit. And, that sort of thing helps a lot. And I think that, as I was saying earlier to someone, that we have this equation, Porum, Anjun, I, that we trust one another enough to be able to take suggestions and so
Mhm.
on. And Porum, what was nice is that Porum realized that these two actors will have to carry the film on their shoulders.
Mhm.
And whatever problems we had with the script or whatever was ironed out earlier
Mhm.
through detailed discussion. After that, the difficult parts like how much, I mean, if I have to climb onto something, then how much should I do? How exhausted should I get? Those levels were fixed from beforehand
Mhm.
during workshops. So when we actually started acting, there was not really much, there were no difficulties as such. And Porum had already said that if you stick to more or less what the characters are saying, you don't have to repeat the exact lines, because sometimes if you're just repeating the exact lines many times when they're one take after another is being taken, then you tend to get repetitive. But if you change a word or two, then it takes on another freshness.
Mhm.
So Porum was allowing us to do that. He was giving us that space, which I
That
have done,
fluidity.
so many
Yeah.
times with Anjun, with
Mhm.
Konkona. I've given them that space. When I know that an actor needs very, detailed direction, I do that as a director. But when I know that an actor can handle this character and can give his or her own inputs without me directing them in a very
Mhm.
detailed fashion, apart from the mise en scene, I mean, the
Mhm.
blocking and all that, which I have to do. Okay, you have to take the light
Mhm.
here, you have to
Mhm.
go to that window, then you have to go there.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I leave them be, their timing, their whatever they allow them to do, maybe change the dialogue a little bit. I did that in 36 Charangi Lane, for instance, with
Mhm.
Dhritiman, but I didn't do it with Debosri. She was just new. So I had to direct her very minutely. But Anjur in this, I mean, Porum in this case knew that he was dealing with two veteran actors. So he gave us that space. And whenever we went out of track, which we didn't most of the time, he then would gently nudge us back to track. That maybe, if you can do it just a little more of this, or bring out this a little more, or do this a little less. Nothing beyond that. We were just basically given the freedom to be these characters.
So, with the advent of the social media and the change in the kind of promotions that take place before the film is released or anything, but whatever is happening in our life, so much influence is, wielded upon us by the social media nowadays. How do you see this evolving space, or how times have changed from a very private, times where social media was not so all encroaching, to now social media dictating almost every aspects of our life? How do you handle it, and how do you see it?
Well, like most things, it has its downsides and its upsides. The upsides are that you are able to reach a lot of people. You're able to put across your ideas, and sometimes they get carried over on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever. And that's the upside, that you are in contact with so many people. You're able to convey your ideas to so many people. For instance, during the COVID lockdown times,
You did
uh,
quite a few live.
I did translated a lot of poetry, and
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
put it out there. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without social media. maybe I would have wasted a lot of time and felt depressed, which I didn't, because I used to do it every single day. And the downside is that you also waste a lot of time. Not if you're doing something creative, like Anjan often writes, I've noticed, and other people do too. Otanu often writes. I sometimes write. A lot of people write, uh, but the thing is that if you're not doing that, if you're just wishing people happy birthday or saying how nice they're looking or whatever, you're just wasting a lot of time when you could have been reading or listening to music or watching something good or writing or even thinking. You need space to think. Nowadays, because of social media, the time that you get to cogitate is getting less and less and less.
Absolutely.
So I now do uh, social media only once in a while. I don't do it very often.
And you
See,
very frequent? Or?
I don't know the downside. I think the problem is that with the digital, you know, everybody cannot do everything. So if everybody is reviewing films and talking about films and saying that this is what is good and this is what is bad and this, there are not qualified people who can do that. If everybody is saying that this is what good, this good, eat this, there is no question of having a qualified advertising agency. So media, advertising, these require qualified people. Now, if an ordinary person is taking the job of advertising and taking the job of media, then it's all lost. If a film cannot be criticized and you cannot say what a bad film is, then you can never understand what a good film is. So too much. It has given us freedom to talk and say too much rather than hold back and think. So that is a problem. I think that is a big problem.
Absolutely.
Everybody is, saying this great, go and see it, and somebody is saying, oh, I don't want to see this. I'm saying, yeah, yeah, it's great. So finally, a lot of good things get lost, a lot of bad things are.
True.
Get-
True.
So
So, Rinadi, what's keeping you busy nowadays? What are the new projects that you're planning to undertake? And
Nothing.
nothing. So, you're not going to make any film
I
anytime
don't
soon? Or are you thinking or
I
writing any
don't know.
script?
I just want to be in free flotation without anybody disturbing me or calling me or asking me to launch something or to be chief guest somewhere. I just want to be free of that for a while before I can even think of doing something.
Mhm.
I'm not the kind of person who can just write at will. I need to be able to think, to react, to have things marinate inside me. At the moment, I think what's keeping me busy is my little dog.
And Anjana, what's keeping you busy apart from films, music,
no,
and theater?
I'm doing, I've started.
If you could tell us a little about
I'm doing a version of King Lear. I'm instead of trying to make a film, I'm doing a theater.
So, when are you staging that production?
4 shows have been. We continue for some time.
Yeah,
So the next is next month again.
That's
Two
keeping you
shows.
busy. And what about music? Your eternal love.
See, this is because of the theater. I can't do enough concerts, so I'm right now not doing much concerts. So it's the theater which I'm doing, and I think also, as Riyadi said, it's important that it's not. I think it's also important for you not to do too anything. Just not
Just
do it.
live.
Just live. Yeah, it's important.
Absolutely. It was so wonderful chatting up with you both. And we wish you all the best for the release of the film, which is on 31st Jan, Friday.
Thank you.
And thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.